It's Monday morning. Your alarm screams. You drag yourself out of bed, swallow a coffee, and join the great migration of humans shuffling toward desks and screens and tasks that fill the hours until dark. You tell yourself this is just how life is. This is what it means to be a person. But the real answer is far stranger, because for almost the entire span of human existence, none of this existed. No alarms, no deadlines, no 8-hour shift, no boss. The thing you call a normal day is younger than the wheel, younger than writing, younger than the pyramids. Your ancestors looked up at the same sun you do, and they spent their hours in a way you would barely recognize. So what did they actually do all day? To answer that, you have to delete almost everything you assume about human life. Forget the idea that survival was a constant, desperate scramble. Forget the cartoon of the caveman dragging himself through misery from dawn to dusk. The evidence points somewhere else entirely. And once you see it, you may never look at your own week the same way again. Start with the people who still live closest to the ancient pattern. In the 1960s, an anthropologist named Richard Borche Lee spent time with the Jew Swansea, a group of hunter-gatherers in the Kalahari Desert. He did something simple. He counted. He measured how many hours these people actually spent finding food. The numbers shocked the academic world, roughly 15 to 17 hours a week. That was it. 2 to 3 hours a day of what we would call work. The rest of the time was something else. Resting, talking, visiting relatives, making tools, but slowly, without urgency. Sitting in the shade, playing games, telling long, winding stories that everyone had heard 100 times before. These were not people on the edge of starvation. Lee found them well-fed, healthy, and remarkably relaxed. They lived in one of the harshest environments on Earth, and they had more free time than you do. How is that possible? Think about what your ancestors actually needed. Food, water, shelter, safety, company. Once those were handled, the to-do list ended. There was no next task, no inbox refilling itself, no invented work to justify the day. When the food was gathered, the day was yours. This is the part that's hard to absorb. The pressure you feel to be productive every waking hour is not ancient. It is not written into your DNA. Your body was built for long stretches of rest, punctuated by short bursts of intense effort. A burst of hunting, a burst of gathering, then nothing, then recovery. Your nervous system still runs on this rhythm. It's why you can sprint through a crisis and then feel hollowed out for days. It's why 8 steady hours of low-grade stress leaves you exhausted in a way that a single sprint never would. You were not designed for the marathon of the modern workday. You were designed for the chase and the long calm that follows it. So, picture the actual day. You wake without an alarm when your body decides. The light wakes you. There's no rush. You eat something left from yesterday. The adults talk. Some of the group decides to go gather plants, roots, berries, nuts, which made up the majority of the diet, far more than meat ever did. This part was mostly done by women, and it was reliable, steady, social. They walked, they talked, they dug, they filled their bags, and they came home. Maybe a smaller group goes hunting. This could take hours. It could fail entirely. Hunting was unpredictable, which is exactly why it wasn't the foundation of survival. The foundation was the gathering. The hunting was the gamble. By early afternoon, the food is in. And then the strangest thing happens by modern standards. Nothing. The day opens up into hours of unstructured time. And this is where the real work of being human happened. Not work in the way you mean it. Work in the way that built everything you are. The anthropologist Polly Wiesner studied the Jew/Swansea too, and she noticed something about how they used their time after dark. During the day, conversation was practical. Land, food, who did what, small disputes, but at night, around the fire, the talk transformed. 80% of nighttime conversation, she found, was storytelling. Tales of distant people, myths, the adventures of ancestors. The fire pulled everyone into a shared imagination. This was not idle. This was the engine of human culture. Those stories taught children who they were. They carried the rules of the group without anyone needing to give a lecture. They stretched the imagination across great distances and across generations. The hours your ancestors spent doing nothing were the hours they spent becoming a people, becoming a we. So when you feel guilty for sitting and talking, for a long meal that goes nowhere, for an evening of stories and laughter that produces nothing you could put on a calendar, understand what you're feeling guilty about. You're feeling guilty about the oldest and most important human activity there is. Now, here's the twist. You might assume that as humans got smarter, as we invented farming and cities and tools, our lives got easier. More free time, more leisure. The opposite happened. When humans began farming, around 12,000 years ago, the workload exploded. Farming demands constant labor. Plant, weed, water, guard, harvest, store, repeat forever. The archaeologists who study early farmers find shorter skeletons, worse teeth, more disease, and more signs of bodily wear than in the foragers who came before. The historian Yuval Noah Harari called the agricultural revolution history's biggest fraud because the thing that was supposed to free us chained us to the field instead. Farming could feed more people, but each of those people worked harder and lived a narrower life. The surplus it created didn't become rest, it became stored wealth, which became inequality, which became kings and soldiers and the very first people who worked all day on behalf of someone else. Your 40-hour week is a descendant of that fraud. So the long arc of human history isn't a steady climb toward leisure. It's a story of inventing more, owning more, and somehow working more to keep it all running. The hunter-gatherer with 3 free hours a day would look at your schedule with genuine confusion, not envy. Confusion. Why, with all your machines and all your abundance, are you so busy? It's a fair question. Because you have power your ancestors couldn't dream of. Light at the flick of a switch. Food without the hunt. Knowledge in your pocket. And yet, the open, unstructured hours, the ones that made your ancestors fully human, have been quietly filled in, booked, optimized, sold back to you in pieces. Here's what the ancient pattern is whispering to you. The rest was never the reward for the work. The rest was the point. The work existed to make the rest possible. Somewhere along the line, that order got reversed, and now the work has become the point, and the rest has to justify itself. You don't need to justify your rest. No human did for 200,000 years. The next time you sit in the long, slow hours of an evening with nothing scheduled, telling a story that goes nowhere, watching the light fade, doing nothing a calendar would respect, notice the feeling. That isn't laziness. That is a body remembering what it was built for. It's Monday morning. Your alarm screams. But somewhere, underneath the noise, something older than the alarm, older than work itself, is still waiting for the day the world finally goes quiet and the hours become yours again.